Hi, welcome to Pleasures of the Text. My name is Atima. So this video is actually an impromptu video that just kind of like came to me today. I was like, why not make my summer reading list? It's an ambitious reading list because, well, one, I never really make summer reading lists. I know some people do, but like it's not a thing that like I've ever really done in the past. I just kind of like pick up whatever. But I love the idea of kind of like a curated, almost like themed reading for the summer, like for a particular season. Some of these are books that like I've planned to read this summer, and some of them are like books that I just think would be fun to read or revisit in the summer. But this is also ambitious because I've been reading The Salt Aces by Toni Cade Bambara for like the past month and then some, and I'm close to being done, so this is what I have left, which I'm kind of excited to finish so I can jump into like these ones that I'm talking about. But yeah, let's just say this is more of a like themed suggestions of like different reads that I would love to get to. But like I honestly, if I'm being realistic, I don't think I'm going to get to most of these this summer. But yeah, when I think of like summer, I think of like a paperback, like summer paperbacks, and easy, quick reads that are digestible but like are emotional or sentimental or melancholic. I'm smiling so big because like that's exciting for me. Those are types of reads that I like. Okay, so because I'm corny, the first thing that I considered is Summer by Edith Wharton. My kind of history with Edith Wharton is that in, I want to say like 2018, maybe late 2017, early 2018 or something, I watched The Age of Innocence, which is based on her novel directed by Martin Scorsese. I loved it. Like that movie was very up my alley. Like it was romantic, it was heartbreaking, it had a lot of flowers. I loved Daniel Day-Lewis as Newland Archer. I love Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder is in it. Like it just had a bunch of, it's a very me movie. It's also like a period film, so that's like up my alley, and it's beautifully shot and heartbreaking, like I've said. So I finished watching that movie and I was like, okay, I would like to read the novel. So I went to like Powell's and I bought a bunch of Edith Wharton books. So I kind of made a mistake with The Age of Innocence. Instead of buying like The Age of Innocence, like its own book, like I bought this kind of tome book that had The Age of Innocence, The House of Mirth, and one other of her novels, and it's huge. It's like, I don't know what, like that's the kind of book that you get, like that's like a collector's book. So that's the kind of book that you get when you've read and love the thing and you want like a collector's edition to kind of have in your house. Big mistake. Like that's just not how I would want to like read, like have it on my desk and like open, you know, that's not how I read in general. I need like to be able to carry my books around. Maybe that's also why I love paperbacks over like hardbacks. I bought a short story collection called Roman Fever and Other Stories, which I've been enjoying. I have a bad habit, as you see with some of these books, I have a bad habit of starting and not finishing books, and that's kind of why I like booktube and bookstagram. My bookstagram in particular, like I'm trying to read and like I'm trying to complete, I'm trying to become a completist, instead of like mood reading. You pick something up, you drop it off. I just think like in general it's something that I want to work on myself. I know other people do this and like it works for them. For me, I've noticed that like it's honestly something that I need to curb. Like I need to get better at like finishing things. And then the other Edith Wharton that I picked up is Summer. So I'm a sucker for like a good cover. Knew nothing, like I think I just knew The Age of Innocence. I knew House of Mirth, like it's just one of those things you've heard of. But like Roman Fever and Other Stories I knew nothing about, and Summer I knew nothing about, but like its title is my favorite season. It has this gorgeous illustrated cover. It's a tiny like pocketbook paperback. The back is like really pretty as well. So yeah, obviously I wanted it. This is one that I have started reading and stopped. It's very much like a summery read, you know, like it's called Summer, but it's also like a summer paperback. It is about this girl called Charity Royale. It's like a summer in her life where she's like having her coming of age sexual awakening. We just kind of follow her throughout the summer she blossoms and like finds first love and stuff like that. I definitely want to finish this. This is how far I made it in the novel, so I've read all of this, so like there's no reason why I couldn't have finished this. But this is like one of the first things that popped into my head when I was like, if I'm going to compile a summer reading list, like obviously Summer by Edith Wharton is going to be on there. So because I'm corny times 2, the next thing that like immediately popped in my head was Summer Sisters by Judy Blume. This is one that I've read already, and I like, it would be amazing if I could reread it. I have history with this novel. The first time I read this was when I was 14. The summer I turned 14, I believe. And it's funny because so it's one of those novels that like my older sister, my older female cousin, they were reading. At least I remember like my older female cousin reading it and like giggling as she was reading, and the entire thing was like, I wasn't supposed to read this. So I was like, well, now I have to read this novel. So that summer, like I remember like I would like sneak to my sister's room and like pick it up and read it, and I would be like by the window in the dark, and like I'd be reading it with like the last sun's rays, and then I would like, if I heard like maybe she was coming back from work or something, I would like put the book away. I just remember like it had such a huge impact on me, like for a really long time. Like the first tattoo that I conceived of was Never Be Ordinary, because you know, like MBO, Never Be Ordinary, is one of the packs that the girls make to be 14 again. It's one of those female friendship stories, right? Like, so Judy Blume is, I guess it's fair to say that she's like the godmother of young adult novels. I never read Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, like, which is her most famous novel. I remember at some point it was like in the house, but like it was not one I gravitated towards. But this one, Summer Sisters, like it just seemed very much like a me novel, very much like a codependent female friendship story. And you know what, like when I was conceiving of this list again, one of the novels that came to my head was the Neapolitan novels by Elena Ferrante. Either that or The Days of Abandonment. I was like, I might spend my time with this, because those are 2 novels that like I'd started reading in 2015 and then stopped again because I'm annoying. I started reading this, like the Neapolitan novel, and then My Brilliant Friend. Why am I saying the Neapolitan novel? I started reading My Brilliant Friend, and then I dropped it, and I picked up The Days of Abandonment, and I read that. I never finished it though, even though I wrote an essay about that and The Godfather. When I was thinking of this list, I was like, oh, that would be good. But I think it's just maybe not this summer, maybe like another summer. I'll tackle it like another time. I think maybe I just wanted to go back to like my OG codependent female friendship that's like turned into sisterhood. Caitlin and Vix. Wow, what a moment in time. A moment most pleasing to me. I remember this novel made me cry. I finished it and I was bawling, and like when I was younger, my litmus test for if I loved something was how like emotional it made me. I think since then my like metric for taste and for what I enjoy has sort of like changed. But like that's, I mean, obviously if something moves you, like that's a given. And this was one of those things that I think it just really moved me. In general, I think in fiction, I love codependent like friendships, especially female friendships. I've been watching Entourage lately, and part of what made me keep watching it was the friendships. Like I think all 4 of the boys are codependent, but like Vince and Eric have a very codependent relationship that, yeah, codependency is not good, but like I think that like it's refreshing in Entourage to just see this male friendship where you can tell they really care about each other and they're like rooting for each other, and like there's the jealousy and all of that. Like it's made me think. I love it. Summer Sisters definitely has like one of the most codependent like female best friendships. I think anyone who loves My Brilliant Friend, I'd want to like give it to. I mean, it's like, it's frustrating, it's very like, don't get me wrong, like it's very much what it's white, but it's like, I don't know, something maybe about like vintagey YA, because it's like It's set in the 70s for the most part, and we follow them throughout the summers. But it was like, okay, it was published in 98. I love it. Like, for a long time this kept being on the list of like my favorite novels. That's how much it moved me. But yeah, I really hope to get to this. And also, like, I made sure I got, when I went to Powell's, like, they had a different version, but like I made sure to get this edition, which is, this is not the one I read, obviously. The one I read is a lot more like used and beat up and everything, but I wanted to get like the same cover because I love this cover. Like, it's very, the font, like, it's just very much the sort of paperback novel that I think of. It's a beautiful articulation of like female friendship, in my opinion. I think if you like this sort of story, if you like My Brilliant Friend, if you like stuff like that, I think try this out. So the next two things that I was considering, they're not, I don't know if they're necessarily summer. Actually, I'm wrong. They are some, at least one of them is a summer novel. It's these two novels by Nella Larsen. It's Quicksand and Passing by Nella Larsen. So Passing, right? I began reading this in 2017. 2017 was like such a monumental summer for me. I remember like I'd pack a bunch of books. I think I packed like Durga Chupas's Too Much I'm Not the Mood because I'd recently read that, and that was one of my like books I needed to have at arm's reach. Like, I had it in my bags and it was just like I need, like, as a comfort thing, like I loved it so much. And then I think I got Roland Barthes' A Lover's Discourse. That was another thing that I packed because I love that book. I haven't finished reading it, even though I bought it in 2016 because, again, there's something wrong with me. But like that, I'm fine with like slow reading because it's something to like savor. I remember I was reading Yagyasi's Homegoing, which I never finished. Again, something's wrong with me. But I don't remember if I packed it with me. I probably did. 2017 summer was spent in California. It was my first time in California. It was very like monumental to me, and it's still one of my most meaningful summers. One of the books that I bought during that summer was Passing by Nella Larsen, and I started reading it, and you guessed it, did not finish it, and this is like where I stopped. So I was like halfway. Again, it's such a slim novel. Like, both of them are such slim novels. I know Passing has like a really great passage about like the August heat. I hope I'm not remembering incorrectly. It makes it a summer novel, in my opinion. Kind of want to read both of them together, or one after the other. So Quicksand is her debut novel. Passing is the following novel. Passing is her better known novel. It has like the very well-known storyline about this black woman who is friends, or who reconnects with an old friend who is passing as white. The reason why I wanted to pick this up was because the Netflix movie, Rebecca Hall's directorial debut, she adapted Passing, and she did, like, it was really well done, starring Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson. It's very, very beautiful. So for some reason, like, when I was thinking of the next novel that I wanted to pick up after The Salt Eaters, this kept coming to me. It was like between this and The Super Rationals by Stephanie LaCava. But I think I might save that for later. I just kept thinking about Quicksand, so I think I'm going to read it. I don't really know much about this one. Like, I know it's had debut. I know that, maybe it was a tweet or something, but the Rice Outlaw, Michelle Jackson, sort of said that Quicksand she preferred, or she said Quicksand was like the better novel. I'm just going to read the blurb. Born to an indifferent white mother and an absent black father, and scorned for her dark skin, Helga Crane has long had to fend for herself. As a young woman, Helga teaches at an all-black school in the South, but even here she feels different. Moving to Harlem and eventually to Denmark, she attempts to carve out a comfortable life and place for herself, but ends up back where she started, choosing emotional freedom that quickly translates into a narrower existence. Larsen's powerful first novel evocatively portrays the racial and gender restrictions that can mark a life. I know there's nothing really about the cover that like screams summer, but I really like it, and I think maybe like the suggestion of like a journey and an emotional journey like is something that feels like it would pair well with this season. Okay, so the next thing is something that like makes me so delighted, and something that I was genuinely planning on rereading. I read it last fall and I finished it and I was like, oh, I want to read this again. And then I was like, it would be amazing if I read this in the summer. And it is Happy Hour by Marlowe Granados. I also have history here, I guess, with this author, just in the sense of the first time I kind of encountered her and her work was that she interviewed a writer that I like during St. Felix. She interviewed her for VSP Consignment Store's editorial section, I guess, and she took the pictures as well. So I thought like, oh, these are really gorgeous like photographs, like let me see who this person is. I went and kind of like checked her Instagram, and I was like, oh, she's also a filmmaker and a writer and a stylist. I think the thing that really hooked me was her podcast. So she co-hosts this podcast called The Mean Reds about women-led films, and I devoured it like last year, summer of 2020 maybe, I don't know, it was my top podcast like last year. They kind of go in depth on women-led films and romantic comedy, and I kind of just enjoyed her personality and everything. So when I saw that she was coming out with a book, like it was one of those debuts that I was keeping track of, because I had read a few things of hers, but she has this really great advice column that she did where someone asked her about like writing, but she also like writes essays on adventuresses and just female archetypes, and kind of like going in depth on them, such as an essay on the bimbo and an essay on adventuresses. So obviously when the novel was finally published in the US, like I was like, I really want to read this, and I loved it. Like the minute I got into it, I love this. It's one of my favorite novels of last year that I read. I finished it and I was like, okay, time to go again. But I definitely, like, I held myself because I wanted to read other things. I'll definitely be reading like any other novel she puts out, but it follows Issa Epley and her best friend Gala. They're 21, they're beautiful, they're in New York to have a summer, like the summer of their lives, and we just kind of like follow them throughout as they mingle with like New York society, and there's great commentary on like capitalism and that kind of New York grind and hustle culture. There's so many people they encounter who are like, what do you guys mean, like what do you do for what do you do for a living? And they're like, nothing. And people are just like, huh, because the expectation is like you're always trying to climb, or you're always trying to like be a part of this hierarchy, and they're just like, we don't really care, we're just here for a good time. It works as a manifesto even on female pleasure and on living life and on like I guess anti-capitalist work, or the capitalist like grind of living for your work as opposed to living for life and living to live and living for pleasure and beauty and love. I remember how I felt reading this, and it made me want to like go out and live, which is a mark of good fiction, I think, or good arts in general, that makes you want to like make stuff or be in the world, and that's what this did. If I get to reread Happy Hour this summer, I will be very, very happy. So the next book that I'm thinking of is another reread, and I might be laughing through this one entirely. It's The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. Classic for those who know. Those who know, it's a classic. I also read this in the summer, so I was like at a moment in my life where I grew up Christian, right, and I was kind of having moments of doubting, and currently I'm not Christian, and I'm I'm fine, and we're not dealing with guilt. But that summer, like, I decided that I wanted to sort of try something else. I had a very like teenage way of how I described it, where I was like, I'm removing, or I'm stepping out of this box of all I've ever known, and wanting to see what it's like outside. And funny enough, this book brought me back to Christianity. Like, this book actually made me Christian again. So I think it's very funny, and obviously, I mean, I think that's like funny, but I also think like it definitely moved me. It's not set in the summer, but it's like it's in Australia, and it has all that heat, and I think it's just perfect. But it's also like another paperback in the sense of how I conceive of paperbacks. Like, it has some of my favorite story elements. It has an intergenerational like family story. It has forbidden love. I love forbidden love in fiction and in real life. No, I love forbidden love in fiction. I think fiction is a good safe place to explore certain things like that. So it has like this relationship with a priest and a young girl, and you know, classic, right? Another novel that did that is Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, which I love. Like, that's one of my favorite novels, even though Chimamanda, but yeah, it's just like, it's creepy, obviously, like, being able to explore these human like feelings and disgusting aspects of our beings and ourselves. You know what would also be a good thing to kind of pair with this is another novel I love and I want to reread, but there's a specific like cover edition that I want to get and it's not so easy to find, but it's Virgins by Caro Rivers. Imagine that that isn't my list. That's in my summer reading list. Like, it's another slim one. It also involves a priest and a young girl. Well, he's not yet a priest, but it's teen, white, like, it's great novel, Catholic school classic. The Thornbirds is about this family and this young girl Maggie, and it has her coming of age and it has her interactions with her family, and it has this priest, and it's about love, it's about pride. It has like, I don't think I'm going to do this justice like trying to explain it, but like I love fiction that kind of does like cause and effect, or I love fiction as a place to kind of explore that, and not really cause and effect but like chance, you know, like this sort of life thing where there's like this intermixing of like chance and predestiny, or chance and fate, like, or coincidence, synchronicity, things like that. Like, I love it. And so this novel definitely has that. Is a word I'm thinking of irony? I don't know. I doubt that I'm going to get to this. Like, just realistically, I think of all of them, like, it's the biggest, and it's like I just don't think I will finish reading this, but like this is definitely on my list. There's also really great descriptions of like Australian landscape. There's a TV adaptation for this which I've never like watched fully, but obviously like as a fan of this book I've gone and I've looked up like YouTube videos, and I think it's ridiculous in that like 80s soap way, but it's also like a lot of people find it valuable and a lot of people love it, I know. But when I think of this, actually the movie that comes to mind for me, if I were ever to do like a book to movie pairing, the movie that comes to mind is My Brilliant Career. I don't remember who directed that, but it's one of my favorite movies. It's a very beautiful movie, also like set in Australia. That's another one that's like lush landscapes ends up being parts of like the story, or parts of the visual storytelling. Maggie, Ralph de Bricassat, Patty, all the people. It would be so much fun to like revisit and read this again, but it's so long. It's so long. I love luxuriating in reads, but I think maybe just because like I kind of just want to read a lot, this might not be highest priority. So the final read that I have is one that I bought with the intention of reading it this summer, The Hotel by Elizabeth Bowen. So my first Elizabeth Bowen that I read was The House in Paris, which I read last summer. Hey, she might end up just being one of those summer offers for me. I loved The House in Paris, so I wanted to read another one of her novels. This, when I went to Powell's, I loved the cover. Bring back illustrator covers, by the way. Like, The House in Paris has a cover by Matisse, and this one, the cover painting is Portofino by Noel Coward. I don't know. I'm going to read the blurb for this one. Elizabeth Bowen's first novel, it's her debut. It brilliantly captures the inflammatory mixture of passion and repression among well-heeled British tourists on the Italian Riviera. Their luxurious seaside hotel seems a closed and comfortable world, marked by dramas no more momentous than tennis games, picnics, and idle gossip. But for the young women of the 1920s facing a dearth of young men after the First World War, it is a battleground for the clash of tradition and modernity. As rebellious young Sydney Warren tests the boundaries of her incomplete freedom, and becomes obsessed with a clever and charming older woman. She increasingly bewilders her suitors, her handlers, and herself. With the psychological precision and command of atmosphere that marks Bowen's most famous novels, the hotel depicts a collection of privileged men and women in determined denial of a world that is falling apart around them. So already this has like a bunch of things that I love. Like, it has British repression, it has privileged people dealing with a deteriorating world, it has the Italian seaside, a luxury hotel, it has a woman who's obsessed with another woman. Like, this just has everything. I mean, it has the First World War. Yeah, no, this just has like, this just seems like a given that this is something that I would want to read in the summer. It's beautiful. I loved Elizabeth Bowen's writing in The House in Paris, so I already know I'm going to love this, and the way she approaches like characters, like, it's already a given. Okay, so that completes my summer reading list. I actually think it's kind of fun to just like make the list just for kind of like reading with intention. I tend to just like mood read and I pick up whatever, and this is, I guess, a form of mood reading because these are things that I'm like, this summer I would like to get through. It's like a themed reading in a sense. It kind of makes it fun. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.